Hi everyone, welcome back to Listen Up with Simran and Isha, where we dive into real conversations about life, personal growth, and everything in between. Today, we have an exciting episode lined up for you, so turn up the volume and listen up.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our episode of Listen Up with Simran and Isha. We are really excited today because we're going to be talking all about maneuvering the messy middle. Nobody likes the mess of becoming, right? Because all of us love to be that overnight successful person. Everyone wants to be that person. Nobody likes to fail, but nobody ever talks about the middle of it all, that process of becoming and the process of doing to become the person you want to become. I call this the period of the phoenix, and today I want to discuss with Isha this period of the phoenix where the phoenix starts like a baby, it grows, turns into this majestic beast, and then finally it reaches its peak and it's time for it to evolve. And the way it evolves is that it actually has to die to be reborn again, right? And this process of dying to be reborn again is one of the most difficult things. And I call it the messy middle of becoming. So Isha, what do you think about like how do we maneuver this messiness of this process of becoming the person you want to become?
Oh my god, this messy part, as much as I hate it, this is the biggest reality of our life right now. Because when you want a goal, when you have a goal, so there are steps to it, right? But when you're actually going through that steps, nobody wants to do it. Every now often you feel I want to give up, but then you just have to push through. So I think we can think of like three, we can give everybody like three ways in which, they can actually maneuver this messy middle. Number one, I think, would be accepting or acknowledging that you're in it, like you're actually going through it. Accepting that you're actually in the mess actually helps you, maneuver it better, I think. Then I think number two would be sticking to a discipline. Sometimes we lack motivation, but if we stick to a discipline rather than motivation in this period, I think that helps a lot. And
Nice.
thirdly, it would be cutting out all the extra noise, all the distractions that we have around us. I think cutting out that extra noise around us will help us maneuver it or maybe hold ourselves together in this period better. What do you say?
Ooh, I love that. I love that. I think this is such a nice like three-step process that a lot of people can use. And I'd love to like dig in with you.
Of
Like,
course.
what is this process? Because I don't think anybody talks about this. Like, I've never heard anyone talking about how do you manage this mess of where you're not where you want to be and you're not happy, but you're working on it and nobody really understands it and you're in this messiness. So yeah, let's dig in. The first one I think you said was acknowledging and accepting,
Yes.
right?
Acknowledging and accepting, maybe in that way that when you're actually going through a process, let's look at this step by step. देखते हैं तुमने कुछ शुरू किया, फिर तुम धीरे 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 आगे बढ़े, तुमने baby steps लेने शुरू किए, and while you're at it, the journey is still far, that light at the end of the tunnel is still far away, but you can see it.
Yeah.
But how do you keep holding on? तुम्हें क्या चाहिए उस टाइम में एक्सेप्ट करने के लिए, अपने आप को उस पोजीशन में होल्ड करने के लिए? I think one thing that helps a lot in this time is patience. If you have like
Yes.
if you are a patient person, if you're not even a patient person, but you try and hold on to that process कि जो मैं कर रहा हूँ it will work, you keep telling yourself, reiterating that to yourself, तो वो चीज़ बहुत हेल्प करती है to rather accept that I'm going on a path. बहुत लोगों की सक्सेस बीच में दिखनी शुरू हो जाती है सिमरन, और ऐसे लगता है कि they've reached their goal, but you're also on your journey, you don't have to forget that. So I think acceptance and acknowledging से ये बहुत फर्क पड़ता है, तो मैं अपनी एक reality भी पता चलती है. What do you say?
100%. I feel like you said, सब्र का फल मीठा होता है. मतलब the effort you put in, time you put in, energy you put in, जब आप एक्चुअली वो प्रोसेस में हो और आप इतना सब अपना डाल रहे हो, अपना एनर्जी, टाइम, मनी, इवन जो भी आप अपने प्रोसेस में डाल रहे हो वो आपको हमेशा दिखेगा नहीं, इमीडिएटली नहीं दिखता. एंड यू फील कि ओ यू आर डूइंग ऑल दीज थिंग्स बट नथिंग इज चेंजिंग. बट द ट्रूथ इज कि चेंज इज कमिंग. हर चीज चेंज डजंट हैपन ओवरनाइट, धीरे धीरे होती है. एंड एक्सेप्टिंग द फैक्ट कि आपको रोज सुबह उठ के you have to try again every day, every single day, that's going to really change things for you. Because I feel like when you're so obsessed with becoming successful and wanting that success or wanting to become that person, you become a bit selfish because you're like, oh, I want this, I'm working so hard, why haven't I got there? And the sense of entitlement comes into you. Like, I'm working hard, why am I not there? Like, I worked hard for the whole last week and still
Yeah.
my colleague is making more money than me. There's something wrong with me.
Mm.
Or the world hates me, right? Like, that is what comes to you. Like, God has something against me. But that's not the truth. You have to really put in the work and wait for it to give you
Exactly.
results. Our results take time to catch up to us. And I think that is the best advice I've ever got from a mentor. Ki stop chasing the success. वो कहते हैं ना dialogue of Three Idiots, I forgot. कामयाबी के पीछे मत भागो, कामयाब बनो, कामयाबी खुद तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी.
Exactly.
That is exactly that, right? Like, I feel. What do you
No,
think,
no, I
Isha?
definitely agree. You know why we love these
Yeah.
Bollywood dialogues so much? क्योंकि लाइफ में ना हम when we are actually on a daily basis, ये हमें इतनी इजीली इसलिए क्लिक करता है क्योंकि हमें समझ में आ जाता है क्योंकि हम ये फील कर रहे होते हैं. बस यही बात है कि हम इसे अपने
Mhm.
कोई हमें बोल नहीं रहा होता. जब मूवी में सुनते हैं ना एकदम से क्लिक करती है वो चीज कि यार हाँ
Hit करता
हाँ ये
है.
क्लिक कर जाता है कि यार यही तो मैं सोच रही थी, यही तो मेरे साथ हो रहा है.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course I agree. Let's talk about the second
Mm.
point, and I think which is also something that I have realized in my life कि वो कितना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. You know, people say कि कोई जैसे जिम शुरू करना होता है कि you're like I'm motivated to go to the gym, but 1 week and the motivation is gone. But अगर आपको
Mm.
results चाहिए, अगर हम जिम की एग्जांपल ले रहे हैं, अगर आपको results चाहिए तो one thing that works for you is discipline. मन है नहीं है तुम्हें रोज फिर भी झक मार के जिसे कहते हैं तुम्हें वहां जिम जाना ही पड़ता है. And that I think is discipline, and that is the most important thing in this period. जब आप किसी
Oh,
भी
yeah.
जर्नी पर हो तो discipline is way more important than the motivation that you have in your head. कि शुरू करने टाइम सबके पास मोटिवेशन होती है सिमरन, बट जब हम उस प्रोसेस में आ चुके होते हैं हमें डेली के हर्डल्स दिखने शुरू होते हैं एंड वी कैन इजीली ले ऑफ. बहुत आराम से हम कहीं पे जा सकते हैं, छुट्टी मार सकते हैं. जब आप तब डिसिप्लिन दिखाते हो उसके बाद जो रिजल्ट्स आते हैं ना वो एक्चुअली बहुत ज्यादा सही होता है. वो एक्चुअली डिफरेंस क्रिएट करता है.
Bilkul, bilkul. And I feel like number one reason why you should choose discipline over motivation is because discipline is rooted in logic, in habits, in action. Motivation is rooted in emotion. So that means, as humans, we're emotional people. When you are having a bad day, you don't want to look at anyone, you don't want to talk to anyone. मुझे नहीं किसी से बात करनी, मुझे सोना है, मुझे किसी से कुछ नहीं लेना देना है. But the day you're having a good day, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, मेरे को इस friend को मिलना है, मेरे को यहाँ जाना है, मेरे को ये job के लिए apply करना है. So when you depend on emotions and when you depend on motivation to make you do something, it is like a drug. तो जब तक ड्रग का इफेक्ट लास्ट करता है, यू आर गोइंग टू स्टे मोटिवेटेड, यू आर गोइंग टू keep working towards the goal that you have, you are going to put in all this effort towards it. But the minute the drug effect goes away, you are back to zero. It's like a sugar high,
Exactly.
right? Whether you call it a drug, whether you call it a sugar. When you have a sugar overdose, suddenly you're running around, you're doing all these things, you've had a lot of coffee, for example, you're running around doing all these things. Minute the effect of the coffee or the sugar comes out, you also come down because you no longer are that enthusiastic, that driven to pursue the goal or pursue the thing that you were doing before. So I think it's very important to understand that that's why you choose discipline over motivation, because you're not going to be motivated 24/7. आप यूट्यूब खोलो, आप इंस्टाग्राम खोलो, आपको जो आप नंबर 1 ब्लॉगर को फॉलो करते हो, जो सुबह उठता है 5 बजे उठता है, जिम जाता है, ये करता है, वो करता है, इतनी परफेक्ट जिंदगी जीता है ऑफ सेल्फ डिसिप्लिन, वो इंसान भी आपको बोलेगा कि आप मोटिवेशन पे डिपेंड मत करो, बिकॉज आपको कोई मोटिवेट करने आने नहीं वाला. बट डिसिप्लिन पे जब आप डिपेंड करते हो, मतलब आपका चाहे बुरा दिन हो, अच्छा दिन हो, ओके डे हो, आप यू विल स्टिल डू व्हाट यू हैव टू डू, because it's a part of your system.
Yes.
You have made a system for yourself that you will bank on. And again, coming back to the fact, when you're in this messy middle of where you are not the person who you want to be yet, and you're becoming her or him, you have to depend on this discipline. Because this discipline is what will keep moving you forward. And one day, without you knowing, you'll be like, you look behind and be like, oh my God, I achieved all this. Oh yeah, because I just kept following the simple everyday tasks. I don't know about you, Isha. I get this a lot. Like, I get this from so many people on my page on Instagram, that Sim, I'm stuck, I'm feeling like this, I'm feeling like that, I don't know how to change my life, blah 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 blah. The first question I ask them is, how what have you done to change your life? What have you done? What are the actions that you've taken? And they always say, oh, not much. So if you are not doing and just fantasizing, your life is not going to change.
Of course. And I think when we're talking about this change, जैसे आपने बोला, a lot of people ask you this question. I think one thing that I've realized personally, if whatever the goal may be, कुछ भी end goal हम अपना सोच सकते हैं, but once you start working on yourself, कुछ भी time, maybe meditating, maybe going for a walk, or maybe going to the gym, whatever it is, जब आप self के ऊपर discipline की habit create करना शुरू करते हो ना, वो फिर बाकी areas में like a ripple effect हर जगह आना शुरू हो जाता है.
बिल्कुल.
So I think you start with yourself first. वो डिसिप्लिन वहां से शुरू करते हो. और मुझे पर्सनली ऐसा बहुत बार लगा है सिमरन, किसी किसी दिन ना कुछ भी नहीं होता, बट द थिंग आई ओनली डू दैट डे इज आई गो टू द जिम एंड आई एम हैप्पी बिकॉज दैट डे दैट इज माई ओनली पॉइंट ऑफ सक्सेस, बट ओनली थिंग दैट मेक्स मी फील गुड. तो वो वाली चीज मेरे लिए बहुत ज्यादा मोटिवेटिंग, वो मेरे लिए मोटिवेशन बन जाती है इवेंचुअली. जो मेरा डिसिप्लिन, जो मेरा रूटीन, वो मेरे लिए मोटिवेटिंग बन जाता है कि नहीं यार, आई एम स्टिकिंग टू इट, आई सी द रिजल्ट्स, चाहे मेरा एंड गोल कुछ भी हो. I don't know if you felt this.
And then you go to bed and you're like, okay, I didn't get much done, but at least I did that.
But
at least I stuck to
exactly.
going to the gym, and the whole last week I went to gym. I'm proud of myself. I think being proud of yourself. क्यों, why is it कि जब तुम्हें अच्छी नौकरी मिले, अच्छा पैसा मिले, अच्छी बीवी मिले, या अच्छा life मिले, तभी why are you proud of yourself, right? Why can't you just be proud of yourself for sticking to a habit for 1 week? 99% of the people can't do that. You've done that. So I think like it's important to give yourself that, compassion and acceptance and acknowledgement when you're in this process of becoming, because nobody is going to come and pat your back. Your mom is not going to do it. Your girlfriend's not going to do it. Nobody's going to do it. You have to pat your own back, and you have to be that support system for yourself, right? So yeah.
Time and again and again you have to do it. Every day you have to do it for yourself. Wow, I love this. I know, and I feel this, every day in my life too. Let's talk about the third one, because वो भी मुझे लगता है उतना ही ज़रूरी है. When you're actually going or becoming something, or you want to become a certain person, or you want to become good at something, you have to see what is actually distracting you from. वो रिकॉग्नाइज करना और फिर उसको अपनी लाइफ से डिलीट करना, उसको अपनी लाइफ से निकालना बहुत जरूरी है. लाइक कट द क्रैप दैट इज एक्चुअली नॉट लेटिंग यू मूव फॉरवर्ड. उसको निकाल के फेंक दो बाहर.
I think like what we, going back to the fact, like give yourself 6 months. Give yourself 6 months of no distractions, of good habits, of systems, of processes. Remove negative influences from your life, whether that's your toxic family, friends, it could be the accounts you're following on social media, so many things. Just give yourself that 6 months of focus on back to you. Focus on who you want to become, on what you are trying to do. That's it. And I promise you, after 6 months, your life will look completely different. Completely different. You know my story. A lot of people who follow me from my Instagram page and are listening to us today might know my story, but those who don't know, I was in the worst place of my life in 2019, I want to say. I had just lost my job. I had finished, I've broken up with my boyfriend. And that was the guy I thought I'm gonna marry. And that was the job I thought that is going to propel me into success in my life. And both those things turned out to be living nightmares. So I know for a fact, like I was in that place where I really had to rebuild everything at 25 from scratch. And the best thing I ever did for myself is cut out the noise. Cut out the things which are not helping me become the person I want to become. And it is really, really a choice that you make. It's a choice. The life you're living right now is a choice you've made. Nobody else has made. And if everybody would be successful, everybody would be doing it. So you are special, but it depends on how you are going to push yourself to it. So yeah.
I think when you're talking about cutting out the noise, one thing that people find very hard to do in their life is cutting out the toxic people. उनको recognize करके निकालना, because that's not easy. Confrontation never comes easy to anybody. But if you are someone who is driven, who has an ambition, जिसकी सोच बड़ी है, let's say, but you are surrounded by people who have a small thinking, और उन लोगों से surrounded हो जो आपकी सोच रखते ही नहीं, जिन्होंने वो चीज़ कभी अचीव ही नहीं की, तो you have to distance yourself from them. आप तभी आगे जा पाओ.
बिल्कुल.
और ये स्टेप बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि दिमाग, हमारे पास उतना ही लिमिटेड दिमाग है. हम लोग जितने लोगों से सराउंड रहेंगे, हमारे थॉट्स वैसे ही चलेंगे. सो जब तुम कुछ बड़ा सोच रहे हो, कुछ अपने लिए बड़ा करना चाहते हो, तो सबसे पहले ये रिकॉग्नाइज करो कि कौन तुम्हारे कॉर्नर में है और कौन नहीं. और जो है उनको अपने पास रखो. कीप देम इन योर कॉर्नर, बिकॉज दे विल बी योर बिगेस्ट सपोर्ट सिस्टम इन दिस मेसी मिडल, हाउ यू मैन्यूवर इट, हाउ यू गो थ्रू दिस मेस. बट जो नहीं है, you have to let them go. And I've found it very hard personally to do it in my life, पर करना पड़ा है. And especially recognize करना मुश्किल हो जाता है sometimes, because you know people have the second face that is very supportive to you, but you have to recognize what is their inner thoughts toward you. वो चीज़ recognize करना थोड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है.
Yeah, and I feel like इसलिए it's important to have a system of everybody doesn't have to be your friend. Everybody doesn't have to be close to you. You need to have your innermost type circle. Then you have your second layer of social circle, then third layer, fourth layer. You're allowed to have layers to how many people you allow in your life and not, how much you share, you don't share. And I like what you said, and I will connect back to it. Like, for me, the favorite thing I remind myself again and again is big minds talk about ideas, small minds talk about people. So if you're going to surround yourself with any and everyone, when you have a vision, you have to protect it with everything you have. Everything. So not everyone should have access to you or that vision of that person you're becoming. And only the people who truly understand it or truly want to understand it should be there in your life. And if not, it's okay. When you actually become that version of success, they'll come around. I can't tell you how many times when I started my business, I remember so many family people were like, oh, ये चलेगा नहीं चलेगा पता नहीं, social media क्या है, ये तो सब facade है, ये सब चीज़ें. There are so many negative comments.
I know.
And at that time, I told myself कि मैं किसी की नहीं सुनने वाली और किसी को कुछ बोलने भी नहीं वाली. किसी को ज़रूरत ही नहीं जानने की मेरी ज़िंदगी में क्या हो रहा है, क्यों हो रहा है. 6 महीने बाद जब सब ठीक हो, 6 महीने 1 साल बाद फिर बात करेंगे. And the same people who in the beginning were like, oh, ये चलेगा नहीं चलेगा पता नहीं, yeah, they were giving me advice कि ऐसे करो वैसे करो ऐसे करो. नहीं, you don't know how to do it. The same people came around after 1 year and went like, oh yeah, Simran, मेरे को तो पता था ये कर दिखाएगी, इसमें वो बात थी, मेरे को तो पता था. And I'm like, the same people will turn around and be completely different to you if you are a success. So instead of convincing people about your worth or convincing people that you can do this or not do this, the best thing to do is let your actions talk for yourself.
Bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself.
Than anybody else.
Let your actions speak. Build, I think we discussed this in our previous episode, that you build in private and celebrate in public. And that's exactly when it comes to the process of becoming. Because no one is going to stand by you. So, yeah.
No. It's as sad as sometimes it can be very chaotic. बहुत saddening हो जाता है, lonely हो जाता है सबसे बड़ी बात. Because you're sticking to a routine, you're doing things, you're not seeing the results right away. Because it's not instant gratification, like reward नहीं मिल रहा साथ में. But trust it, और eventually you have to surrender to it. जो कर रहे हो उसको surrender करके करो. And I think results will come to you. Have that faith in yourself. Because most of my friends I see around me, and जो भी मेरे साथ, sometimes friends come to me also. They're like, Isha, we don't see the light abhi. And I'm like, I get it. But I can actually visualize the light for you 3 months, 4 months down the line. So just stick to what you're doing, and you're doing it right. So वो वाली चीज़, you have to keep reminding yourself. And surrender, I think, is very, जितना tough है पर उतना ही ज़रूरी है in this process.
Good. I agree. Mm-hmm.
I think we've covered everything. I think everybody who's stuck in this phase, we just want to keep motivate and tell you, just keep going. You'll eventually get there.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Listen Up with Simran and Isha. Hope you enjoyed the conversation and make sure to like and subscribe for more. Until next time, stay tuned and listen up.